Hello and welcome to the Cold Coffee Club, a podcast brought to you by Houston moms. We're here to give you a little bit of that mom-to-mom connection, fun, and conversation amidst all the chaos. Join us as we take a break from doing all the things and explore the wide spectrum of this crazy motherhood role. We'll interview fun guests, talk about cool grown-up topics, laugh, share, and grow together. So go ahead, reheat that coffee, and put your feet up. Here we go.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Cold Coffee Club. We have a great episode ahead for you, if I do say so myself. We are talking about being prepared and what that looks like for us. I know the world is kind of crazy. There's a whole lot going on. There are things we need to be paying attention to. And so I am joined today with Becca, and we're going to talk about how we stay prepared in our homes, how we stay prepared when we're out and about, and how we teach our children to be ready just in case anything goes down that we need to think fast, that we need to be ready for. So I'm really excited to dig into this topic. This is something that is near and dear to my heart. As an Enneagram type 6, I like to be ready. I like to have a contingency plan. I like to know what we're going to do if. So we're going to talk all about that. But of course, let's spill some tea first. So my fail this week, and I think it's probably a fail for a lot of us here in Houston, we were so excited to see the eclipse. We were so pumped. I know I hyped it up so much for my kids. I was just like, yeah, this is going to be really cool. We got our glasses. We're ready. We were so excited. I let them stay home from school so we could all experience it together. And then it was kind of a bust. The weather did not agree with us. The clouds would not move out of the way. And it was just really a letdown. But you know, it happens. We handled it in stride. We saw some videos online. It was cool. We saw some cool pictures, and there was a part of us, I know me and one of my kids looked at each other and was like, yeah, but I wish I got to see it for myself. So, you know, it is what it is. Of course, I love to end with a win. And so this week, my win is that I got to spend the day at No Label Brewery with my kids and Katie. And we went out there for crawfish and live music, and they had an Easter event. And so we went to that. And it was just a great time to reconnect with my kids. We don't do a whole lot like out and about lately. It's just life has been so busy. So we've gone on little trips together, or we do things like go to the park, things like that. But it's been a while since we've done like an event that we went to together. And so going to No Label and being around so many people, having so much fun, my kids making friends with other kids. We got crawfish, we got tacos, I had beer. It was just a great time. It was a beautiful day outside. And we couldn't beat it. Like, it was just so perfect. I love building memories with my kids and them saying like, remember last time we were at No Label and there was this dog and we met that kid and I spilled my this and all those things. I just love those simple things that don't cost a whole lot of money. And we get to just remember that forever. So that's my win. It's real simple, but just hanging out at No Label, which has always been one of our hot spots that we've frequented often. And it was just nice to spend a day together just hanging out. For my cream and sugar this week, the Commons at Herman Park is opening this weekend, and it is there's new playscapes, there's new amenities there that just really liven up the area. I'm so excited to go check it out. It is on our list of places we want to visit this week, and it looks huge. Like, I can't tell how big it is, but it looks gigantic. And any opportunity to be outside in amazing Houston weather, I'm always ready for it. There's like a large rocket climbing structure that I can't wait to see my kids climb. There's a ton of walking trails through the 26-acre addition, and there's tons of family-friendly spaces with themed play areas. There's a picnic and dining facility area. There's gardens, and apparently there's a water park. I'm so pumped. Like, I can't wait to take my kids. And it's opening this weekend. April 13th is the date that it is open to the public. And it looks stunning. It looks brilliant. So if you have a chance this weekend or any day when the sun is out, go check out the Commons at Herman Park. All right, it's time for my chat with Becca Vidrine. She and I are going to talk about being prepared. I can't wait to get into this. Let's check it out. Gosh. Okay, Cold Coffee Club. Today I have Becca Vidrine with me, and we are going to talk about being prepared. I know that the world is kind of nuts. There are things to be concerned about, things to keep an eye out for. And as an Enneagram Type 6, I like to be prepared, but also I get super overwhelmed with like, what all do I need to be doing to feel safe and ready to go just in case? And I have been wanting to ask Becca 1,019 questions. Like, well, what do you have for this? And what do you think about for this? And so I'm so excited to have you today.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
Awesome.
When you asked me to talk about this, and I was like, oh, yes, absolutely. This is so fun. This is like my life.
Yes, of course. So yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself first off, and then we'll jump right in.
Okay. Like you said, my name's Becca. We are pretty new to Houston. We moved 3 years ago. So new-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're from like a real small town in Louisiana, and we did not expect to love big city life quite as much as we did, but we fell in love. So I stay at home right now, and I homeschool our 5-year-old. And that's kind of the plan for the foreseeable future. Previously, I was a social worker doing a lot of stuff in psych and hospice. And now we just kind of fell into a rhythm of me staying at home and being with our son. And and then I've always kind of been into being prepared in that realm of things. But it really wasn't until we moved to Houston that I was like, all right, this is a different ball game here.
Yes.
Rural, small town Louisiana had its own set of things to worry about, but now you move to the big city, and I'm a stay-at-home mom now, and my son's with me all the time, and I'm like, there are a lot of more things to be aware of and prepared for. And it's like really becoming a mom kind of just like amplified my overwhelming need to feel prepared about things, which is sometimes it's like a little much.
Yeah, it's amazing what motherhood does to your brain, and you're automatically like, let me think about things. Like I remember when I became a mom and just putting my son's car seat in the car, my back was turned to the entire world, and I'm like back there trying to get in there and buckle him in, and I'm like, oh wow, anything could happen right now.
Exposed.
Yeah.
But so many people don't even think that through. Like, that's awesome that you even thought of that, because so many people are just like blind to that and just stay ignorant. And I'm like a big believer, like you get to stay ignorant on what you want to be ignorant about, right? Like there's a lot of things I choose to just not delve into.
Sure.
But your own personal safety and your children's safety is not one of those things that I believe mothers should be ignorant about, right? We have a due diligence to protect ourselves and our kids. Mm-hmm. And that's in like so many aspects of life.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. So for starters, what does being prepared look like to you?
Different seasons call for different levels of preparedness, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And being prepared at home and being prepared out and about kind of look very different. But always just having like some kind of contingency plan on what would happen if X, Y, and Z, right? Sure. Whether it's a natural disaster or an intruder in your home or getting approached in public or your child going missing or you losing your child because you were distracted at Target looking at, it's just about trying to be as prepared and have as much of a plan in place that you can, right? And kind of just thinking through scenarios and finding good solutions that you think would work. And of course, they're not always going to work, and we can't be prepared for everything.
Sure.
Right. There's plenty of times where I'm like, I thought I had everything prepared for this, and look, I didn't have exactly what I needed. But then you learn.
Yeah.
And now it was waterproof Band-Aids. This is the example. I have a whole car stash, which I'll get into later, about like medical supplies. And then we ended up at a lake. He got a splinter and was in this dirty lake water, and I was like, I don't have anything waterproof. But then I learned, and so then you just like adapt, and now I have waterproof Band-Aids.
Absolutely. Good for you. Smart. It's amazing those lessons that you learn. I mean, you don't think about things till you have to learn a lesson, and you're like, oh, duh, got it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and for me, like I like to be in control of as many things as I can be. Um, so I've learned a lot of lessons in motherhood. I have 3 kids, and learning that they're all different and have different needs and all those things. But there are certain things that it's just like, oh, this is always has to be this way. Like you always have a snack in the car. You always have water in the car. Like always. These are just the things that you have to have. And they're always in response to, oh, I didn't do it that one time, and now I know.
Right. I'm so like you, like I have to be in control of or I think I need to be in control of so many things, right? And you said you're an Enneagram 6 and I'm an 8. So like there's like a lot of intensity in the things that I do which is kind of how the preparedness has become like a bigger thing for me. It's just like I get very intense about things, you know?
Yeah. So for me, I know that, a specific life change, just motherhood has inspired me to be more prepared. But even before that, I feel like I was kind of that like super just vigilant about things and concerned about everything just because of responses to traumas in my own life. Just life in general makes you start to notice things differently. Is there any reason why you've always been this prepared person? Is it in response to anything that kind of just like sparked you to, really look at the world and say, uh-oh, I need to be ready?
It's like a slow burn, right? Because I had a very safe childhood.
Yeah.
I didn't have any of those external threats. I don't ever remember really feeling, oh, like we need to be prepared for this other than hurricanes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That was just kind of a part of life as it is here.
Yeah.
It wasn't really until I became a mom where I just leaned in and I was like, these things interest me. And even though these things might make me weird to be like passionate about,
Sure.
like, let's just lean into who I am and what interests me. And so then I started taking like courses on like personal security, and just kind of really diving into the world of preparedness, which can be very overwhelming when you first start, like when you're like, oh, maybe I should be a little more prepared. When you open that can of worms, it's like, okay, maybe I don't need to be this prepared.
Right. And then you realize how unprepared you are.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Even now, I'm like, I'm not prepared for enough. I'm not, so it's that constant, like, are you doing enough?
Yeah.
Just like every other motherhood struggle, right? Like, are we enough? Are we doing enough? Are we preparing them enough? Are we loving them enough? Playing enough? It's the same thing. Like, I never feel like I'm prepared enough.
Yeah. Oh, that makes so much sense. Oh my gosh, preaching to the choir. Let's start off with just what it looks like for you being prepared at home.
So at home, I feel like at home is maybe what I don't talk, like I talk about the least, really. At home, we have backup food, right? So I have a second pantry. I don't have any pantries. Let me see this. So I have like 3 makeshift pantries in my house. And one of them, 1.5 really, is predominantly for like backup food. And that's the stuff that we use constantly, right? Sauces, canned goods, flours, oats, tons and tons of water. I think, I could be wrong. I'm not the expert. I learn from people. But I think you're supposed to have like a gallon per person per day for 3 days.
Oh.
I think is the standard. 1 gallon per person per day.
Okay.
For 3 days. And I think that includes like drinking, bathing, like in hygiene.
Okay.
So I don't actually know how many gallons we have, but we have a lot, just like taking up the floor in the closet.
Yeah.
So lots of backup food, and I wouldn't have any idea how many days we have
to
be prepared for, but I don't ever feel the need to panic and go to the store when everyone's panicking and going. It's really just enough to have that, right? I like to keep a good stash of like medical supplies for all of us for basic needs. Even like, I like to have like extra like prescriptions that we take if I can somehow get enough stockpiled for that. But actually, just last week or the week before, I went to get medicine for my son and I was like, oh my God, everything's expired. And
Oh.
it was like one of those, like, I didn't do my due diligence of like keeping up with things. So then I threw away almost everything in our cabinet, which was not a bad thing, right? Because we didn't need it. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And restocked everything.
Yeah.
Just to make sure, like, if we were ever out of any, like, we couldn't leave the house or anything that for any certain period of time, we have what we need
Yeah.
for basic medical needs, right?
Right.
The other thing that makes me feel prepared at home is I sleep with a gun next to my bed. Just in the event that there is an intruder, right? To be able to appropriately take measures if I would need to, right?
Yeah.
And with that comes a ton of training and like your own due diligence, right? Not
Sure.
everyone should just like go buy a gun and sleep with it next to their bed.
Right.
It's definitely a level of like comfort and safety and security that you feel with yourself. But that's probably like my number one
Yeah.
preparedness tool that I keep like at home.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, so I own a small handgun, but it is locked away up high, and because I am not yet trained, and so I'm like, okay, this is just, once I get that going, I will probably feel differently about it, but I have it and I know that I have it. And if push came to shove, and like I've learned how to shoot a gun, I know how to shoot this gun. If push came to shove and I needed to, I could, but I don't have it like anywhere I can get to it quickly because I know like, okay, there are a few things I need to work out with this one.
For sure. And mine is locked. It's just like locked next to my bed.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
I don't have that like this loose for
just
my
under your pillow.
Right. Gosh, no, that's not responsible.
Oh my gosh, right. Yeah. And I recently bought a taser. I was doing a lot of traveling by myself on the road, and there were just a couple instances more recently where people were approaching my space and being, belligerent and rude, and I felt threatened, and I was like, okay, I want to have something to where if I need to, I can show you that I mean business. You need to get away from me. So once I got that, I'm like, okay, game changer. I feel a lot better. Just having that has changed kind of how I just feel moving about the world.
There's a different confidence that comes with knowing that you have what you need to feel safe, right?
Yes.
Whether that's a gun or a taser or some kind of spray or even like a whistle, right? Like they're basic, there's different, levels of like, intensity, but whatever makes you feel safe and secure, there comes a confidence with that. And like an ability to be like, okay, I can handle more situations now than I could before.
Exactly. Yep.
Whether it's for yourself, like when you're out alone or with your kids.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. In my house, we also do the extra food. And so every 6 to 8 months, I'll go through it all and just check like, okay, has stuff expired? Do I need to buy more?
That I always forget about.
Yes. Yeah. I have to remind myself, like, and I've like moved some that are on the brink of expiring into the house. I'm like, let me use these up real quick, replace them with new stuff. I have like rubbing alcohol and gauze, and I think, I bought some of those little canister thingies that you can light up and you can heat food up on them.
Genius.
Yes. Love those.
I don't even have that. I don't have that. We have a gas stove, so that's
okay.
Like, but see?
Yes.
Things I'm like, oh shoot.
Yes, and firewood too. I remember when we went through the freeze, we did not have firewood. We didn't even think about it. We live in Houston. We don't need firewood.
And that anyway. That's
exactly. But I've started, when a limb falls down from one of my trees, I'll hack that up, and I'm like, okay, so add that to the pile.
Yeah.
I love having that. I have an axe just for chopping stuff down.
That. Oh, how fun!
I love it.
Like a fun hobby.
Yes, it makes me feel real like outdoorsy.
Totally.
So yeah, things like that in the house. I love that. I swear by it. I appreciate it. Just it makes me feel safer in my home.
Yeah. I also carry. I don't carry. I have fire extinguishers throughout my house too. Yes. Right. So like one next to my bed, one in all the bathrooms, one under the sink really confuses me because I'm like, if my kitchen's on fire, I'm not running into my kitchen to put them out. One time I realized I was like, I need to move them I have them all around my house.
Yeah.
Not just, I don't know. We grew up and it was like only under the kitchen sink.
Yeah.
Which doesn't.
If the fire's there, you're not going there. Okay,
right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And like your boys are older too, so like if you were like go run and get the fire extinguisher, like they wouldn't. You could send them somewhere else to go get another.
Right. Yeah. We have two. One is in my garage and one is in like the linen closet in the boys' bathroom. So you're kind of like on opposite ends of the house. So it kind of works for us. But yeah, and on that topic, having a plan if there's a fire, making sure your children know, like, hey, don't hide under your bed. That is one thing firefighters always tell people when they make those little presentations. Kids will hide under the bed and then they don't know to look for them there. They think like surely the kid left or, got out of the house. But if you're hiding under the bed, they will not find you. And that is insanely dangerous. So they always say, don't do that. And also one thing, I had a neighbor who was a firefighter. He says, always sleep with your bedroom doors closed.
I was going to say that, yeah.
A lot of moms want to have the doors open, so I can hear the kids. Get a baby monitor, but sleep with the door closed. It helps keep or contain the fire so it's not, exactly where you are.
Doesn't get in as quickly. I
think. Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
We tell him, I started telling him this at 4. I was like, if there's a fire, run out of the house and run and we give them like 2 neighbors' houses far down the street. I'm like, just run to their house. We will come find you. Do not come look for mom. Do not come look for dad. We will meet at the neighbor's house.
Yes.
So, like, just get out of the house.
Yeah. And practicing that plan.
But, like, we have to like, try.
What you can. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I have told my kids several times and we've acted it out. And we have a huge backyard to where if they're in the far back corner of my backyard, they're far enough from the house to be safe. And I'm like, so if there's fire towards the front of the house and you can't get out the front door, go to the backyard, stay in that corner, stay together. Do not go back in looking for anything, stay there. And they've all had that drilled in their minds. And I'm like, okay, so that makes me feel better. If something were to happen, at least I know that they know what they're supposed to do. So game changer.
And the role playing is so important, I think, especially with kids. I think it helps them. It helps them feel more secure and safe and know what to do.
Yes.
Right? Because we can tell them, but are they even listening? We never know.
Right. So let's move on to being out and about. It's much harder to be prepared when you're out in the world and you don't know what other people are up to. But what ways do you feel most prepared out and about?
So I like to think of it as like I take all of my home like preparedness and just transport that to my car. Yeah. Right. So I have a ton of so much extra unnecessary medical supplies. Like I have a hemorrhaging kit. I have a tourniquet. I have things that we should never, ever need. Right. On the passenger side, like on my visor panel, there's a tourniquet. There's some like trauma shears. There's a glass break. Again, those are things that we hopefully will never need. But, if you get in an accident and you need to get out of your seatbelt, to be able to reach over and grab that, get your kids out. And then I have a really big bag of like medical supplies. And some of it's stuff that we use all the time, right? Like Band-Aids, bug spray, bug bite, like the thing, I don't know what it's called. You like suction the bug bite.
Yeah.
It works. I love it. Benadryl, antibiotic ointment, super glue in case you need like quick like stitches. Saline rinse, eye drops, Gold Bond, electrolytes, Tylenol, Advil, and like a splint because we go hiking sometimes. So I always keep like a splint. None of this is gonna like really save our lives, but it'll help in the moment.
Right. Oh, that's awesome. You have all the things.
I have a lot in my car. Yeah, we have a travel potty. We keep a potty in our car. We're far past the potty training phase, but you just never know.
Right. Yeah. Oh, wow.
What else do I have? Oh, I have like a list. Obviously we have like jumper cables, right? I keep a headlamp and a fire extinguisher in my car also. And I bought a battery that will jump my car on its own.
Yes,
right?
I have one too. I love it so much.
Me too. And again, it wasn't until I traveled alone it was a girls trip with my mom and sisters, and my car was dead and we didn't have anyone to jump in. And I was like, you see, and I've like been in the talks with my husband, like, can I buy this? Like, is this an okay purchase? Because they're not cheap.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I needed it. And I was like, you see, if I'd have bought my battery, we wouldn't be in this predicament.
Yes.
So I always keep that. But the thing with that is I have to remember to charge it.
I know. And I tried to find a solar one. I thought they had a solar one somewhere. I could not find one. And I thought the same thing. I was like, what if I forget to charge it?
Yeah, because it's like, say, it keeps a battery for a long time.
Yeah.
But then when you don't need it for a long time, I forget to. I should be better about making lists to, like, go through these things. That's just not a strength of mine.
Yeah.
But the battery, I have used that now numerous times.
Yes. Yep.
And like even one time, my husband's battery was like on its last leg, so he had to jump it every time he'd started.
Oh gosh.
Right? Terrible. We should have addressed it sooner. But he would like drive to work and then jump it right before he came home and jump it in the morning. And it was so easy though, because I didn't have to do anything. There was no other vehicle that was needed.
Yeah.
And then I always keep food in my car. Well, like you said, like water, snacks, things that will stay good for a while. Like real emergency, like canned goods, dried meat, dried fruit.
Right.
But then we also keep like a ton of gummy bears and suckers and like all the things that I'm like, oh, here, just take some gummy bears. Like sitting in traffic and I'm like losing my mind. Just take a snack, just please. Yes. Suckers are my favorite though, because they occupy them for longer.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
Arms, suckers, things that are like, like a little bit lengthier too.
Yes. Yeah.
And
then, do you carry a gun with you when you're out?
Often.
Okay. Yeah.
I usually have a knife in my car too. That has a glass break on it. I don't really know how well they work, to be honest.
I know. I've wanted to try mine. And you can't test it out.
Oh. So whenever I say that I have that, I'm like, does it work? I have absolutely no idea.
Yeah.
We're just going to cross our fingers that we never need to try it.
Sure. Yeah.
I do carry a gun with me a lot of the times that I'm out in public. And people have asked, they're like, do you really think that there's that many bad people? And I was like, I do.
Yeah. I think I wouldn't necessarily say there's that many bad people per se, but there are a lot more unhinged people.
Correct. Like, do I believe most people are good? Yes.
Sure.
And do we live in a huge city with like, I don't even know, the population is like mind-blowing to me, right? From my little 7,000 population that I grew up in to this, it's like, well, there are much more unhinged people than there are back where I come from. So yeah, I do think that there's a level of protection that I need to carry with me. Yeah. And do I ever plan to use it? No, never. I never want to have to use I don't want anyone to ever know that I have that. But if push comes to shove and my safety or my son's safety is at risk, yeah, I'm gonna have what I need to protect us.
Yes, 100%.
The goal is to never use it. Never.
Yeah.
I care about my life and my son's life more than someone else's.
Yeah, of course. Of
course. I mean, it's not a really kind way to say it, but
right. But no, it makes perfect sense. And you have to do what you have to do. And on that note, like, how do you keep your son prepared as well?
So he knows that I carry a gun with me when we're out. And he knows why. He knows that it's absolutely not a toy. We go over gun safety a lot. We watched this little video called Eddie the Eagle. It's on YouTube. About just like gun safety. It's cute. It's like this little like animated talking eagle with these other animals. He loves it. He has to watch it all the time.
Yeah.
So that's like probably like the most important thing, especially when it has to do with like a firearm, is his education and safety. And like, it's not a toy. You do not touch it. You do not get to ever, like, this is for our safety. Anyway, I want a whole tangent about that. So talking to him about preparedness and safety is something that I just find so much joy in. And I feel like a lot of parents struggle with that, right? Like to not instill fear and like you don't want to bring up scary things and make them afraid.
Right.
But kids sense things. Kids know when things are wrong. And my opinion and my approach is always to just like give the tools as best I can ahead of time.
Right.
Right. And never ever come from a place of fear, but just like, hey, we do a lot of role playing, right?
Good.
So I'll ask him like, hey, what would you do if we were in Target and you turned around and you couldn't find me? Like you wandered off looking at the toys and then I wasn't there. What would you do first?
Yeah.
You know, and then what if you still couldn't find mommy, then what would you do?
Yeah.
And we kind of make it a game, right?
Yeah.
It's never like, let's sit down and talk about bad things. It's like as we're driving or over dinner while we're playing like Legos.
Yeah.
You know, we just have these conversations. What would you do if you were at the park and you got lost? What would you do if someone came up to you and made you feel uncomfortable? What would you say? How could you respond? What would you do if you found a gun at your friend's house? Like, what do you do in that situation? You know what they are, but what do you do? Right? Same thing with the fire. Like, let's have a plan.
Yeah.
Where are you going? So we do a lot of role playing, which I think helps.
Yeah.
Right? It gets good conversations going.
Sure.
One thing we hadn't really talked about until like a year ago was kidnapping. Because even I was like, oh, gosh, I don't want to talk about that. That's so
heavy
and scary. And like, I'm so vigilant. Like he won't get kidnapped. I'm watching him, which is like, you know, that's not how it works.
Right.
But then we were at Dick's one day looking for shoes, and our Dick's has like a track in the shoe section.
Okay.
Like a pretend track, and he was running. And then all of a sudden I realized I was like, I haven't seen him. So I looked at my husband. I was like, where's Robbie? And he was like, I don't know. And we had both just like got distracted and we couldn't find him. And I'm yelling at this point, right? Because that's one of the things that I do if he gets lost. I start yelling. I'm looking for a boy. He's 5 years old. You start like yelling his description, right? He's wearing this. His hair's this color. You know, all these things. And I'm just like full on mama bear mode at this point. I am screaming throughout the store. I look like a lunatic, but I don't care.
Who cares?
I felt like a lunatic because I was so scared.
Yeah.
But that's also a good way to like, if someone had taken him, like people are looking for him at this, right? And if someone took him would be like, more likely be like, I'm not, never mind.
Yeah. Yeah. She sounds nuts.
Not so unhinged. And we found him. He was playing like he had hidden in the clothes, right? Like he used to do. But it made an immediate conversation of like, okay, you're not in trouble. You didn't do anything wrong. You were having fun, being silly. But here's what does happen sometimes. And here's something that could happen in a store like this, in a place in public, you know. There are bad people, you know, and he always asks like, well, who's bad, or how do they get bad? And we always just say, well, their hearts are really sad, right? Yeah. They have really broken hearts and they just are angry hearts. And most people we know are not bad, but there are bad people. Yep. You know, and it had the whole conversation of like, people can take you. And then the question's like, well, where do kidnappers take kids? And I'm like, I have no idea.
Right.
I've never been kidnapped. I don't ever want to know, but no place good.
Right.
You know? And so then we had that conversation, and that one was hard and heavy. But it was one of those, like, we hadn't had it until we needed to have it. And I wish I would have done it sooner.
Sure.
You know? You never know.
Yep.
You never know what's the right balance of preparedness and then fear. And every kid's different, right? Sure. He enjoys those kinds of conversations. He asks to play, Mommy, let's play the what if game, you know? which is probably some kind of like anxiety that he has too, you know.
I mean, you know, it
We're
is
always
what it
making
is.
fun of our kids anyway.
And
Um,
all of us. And it's hard to find that line of, you know, I want my kids to be kids and be somewhat naive about some things, but then also the world makes it very difficult to let them be that way. You have to have these conversations, you have to practice these things, you have to bring up things that it might seem like, oh, my son is too young to talk about this, but it's very real to some other children, so maybe we need to talk about it now so that they know what's going on. It's hard, and I've talked to my kids about, if they were taken somewhere, if they were lost or things like that. And my middle child, bless his heart, is just so sensitive to everything. And he just immediately was heartbroken. He was like, well, why would someone want to take me from you? That's not nice. I don't like that. And I'm like, no, I get it. And, my kids are too young for cell phones, so they do have these watches that they have that it's GPS tracked and they can call us. We also have a code set into it to where if there's an emergency, they push this button and I'll get the message and I know something's up. And they know never, like one time my oldest sent it to me just kidding, and we had a very serious conversation. I was like, bro, we cannot do this ever. Like, there is no way. So even that little line of communication makes us feel prepared. And every time we leave the house, if we're going somewhere where it's not like we're not going to Granny's house or something. If we're going out, you have to have your watch on. And my youngest doesn't have one yet. And the rule is you always stick with me or one of your brothers, period. Yeah. That's it. For things like in the car, like you mentioned, having snacks, all that stuff, but also I like to have our emergency contact list also in the car. And I like to have a list of who my typical passengers are. So if by chance we get in an accident and God forbid one of my children is removed from the car, I want there to be record like, hey, this kid is normally in my car. You need to make sure that you know where they are. If we're in some crazy accident, they're out of the car, they don't know to look for somebody. My kids are out of basic car seats. My oldest isn't in a booster seat anymore. He's tall enough to not be in a booster seat. And so they might not know that there's another kid normally in this car. So I want them to know. Yeah. So that is one thing I've always kind of had in my glove box. I also have the window brake. I also have a knife. I also have a flashlight. And one thing I forgot to mention in the house is having solar lanterns, not just candles. Sometimes things get wet or whatever, but I have these little solar lanterns. And I recharge them every couple months. I have a reminder. I'm like, no, make sure that they still light up.
I just need you to start texting me. Hey, I'm going through my pantry. Go through yours.
Go through yours.
Batteries.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. We have glow sticks. We have in the car as well, just in case. It's there's so much to be prepared for, and obviously, like you said, you can't be prepared for everything, but as many things as you can check off that list. Hey, we don't have to worry about band-aids, we don't have to worry about food. If by chance we are stranded somewhere, we have water in the car and we're going to be okay for a little bit.
On the interstate for hours, right? We go back and forth on I-10 so much that you might be, and once it gets to Louisiana, the stops are fewer.
Yes.
And so you might be stuck for hours.
Sure.
So you just want to have what you need.
Exactly.
It's not to survive. Sometimes it's just to be comfortable.
Exactly. Yeah.
Robbie keeps your kids' watches. He keeps a bag with like a GPS tracker on it too.
Yeah.
He doesn't take that everywhere, but he takes it a lot of places, and it has an ID card, right, with our phone numbers, and it has a GPS tracker. He has his own safety whistle that he likes to practice, and it's very, very loud, and he knows when to use it. In those role-playing scenarios, he's like, I would use my whistle first.
Yeah.
Yes, or second, or whatever the scenario is.
Yeah. That's awesome.
His own little first aid kit.
Oh.
Little snack. It's like a little fanny pack, like a crossbody bag.
I love it.
Adorable. It's so stinking cute.
That's so fun.
It's adorable. And we're working on having a family code word, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody says it, it's like all eyes on mom or all eyes on dad, or giving even him the permission to use the code word, right? If he feels uncomfortable in a situation, like use the code word and we're like all in. If we're distracted on something, we're no longer distracted, but kind of like your son who like pretended to call, it's like how
make sure they're ready.
But we're going to use it, right? That's fun. But you're like, oh, please don't,
Like, you have no idea what kind of panic attack I just went through.
And we've like even role played out in public with it. There was a few times we go to the zoo a lot, and especially when he was younger. I think now he would feel more comfortable going up and asking someone for help. But he would have his little bag with his ID card, and we would look. And so we look for safe people, right? People that appear safe.
Yes.
And for us, the first person we look for is a mom.
Yep.
Another woman with kids.
Yep.
Right? Or then maybe like a dad with kids, somebody with kids.
Yep.
And as they get older, like now he knows to look for like an employee or a police officer, right? But we started these conversations when he was like little, 2.5.
Yeah.
Like before he really understood, but the conversations were happening.
Yes.
So we were at the zoo and I was like, okay, let's look for a safe person. Pretend you're lost. Who looks safe to you? And at the zoo, everyone's a parent pretty much. So like there's a lot of options. He found someone and he walked up to her. He said, I can't find my mom. I'm lost. And she made eye contact with me. So she knew what was happening. We picked a great person. I don't know. She was great. He gave her his ID card. She called me and like did the whole thing. So he could see that like, if you get lost, it's okay. Like there are things that you have in your toolbox, like to take care of yourself, So we do that every now and then too. And now he's old enough to like work on like memorizing our phone numbers, So he does still have like an ID card in his bag, but I'm like, can you just say our numbers now?
Right.
Work on some more skills.
That's awesome. Oh, I love that. I think I've dropped the ball a little bit with my kids about like memorizing our information. My oldest knows my phone number just because it's kind of sing-songy, so he'll sing it and he's like, this is fun. I'm like, okay, cool. But even we in recent years, having gotten divorced and stuff, we've moved a few times and I don't think they know our phone number by heart. And I'm like, ooh, or not phone number, our address. And I'm like, ooh, that's not good at all. And, I still keep a house phone just in case there's an emergency. I'm like, we have a landline.
I wish we had one.
I'm adamant about it just in case the watches don't work or before they had watches. I'm like, at least y'all know that there's a phone. If push comes to shove, there's something here. So I love that. And, but I think I need to prepare them more. Like, where do we live? What's around us? And who can you go to for help who's nearby at our house? Or, we have not role played if they were lost outside of the house. And I think we need to deal with that a little bit because
we also play games. I'm just remembering all of this, like just as like a situational awareness for them too. Like we'll like park somewhere. And I'm like, okay, tell me the color of the cars next to us, right? Just for them to start paying attention to their surroundings and not just be like lost in space kind of. And then when we come back, I'm like, are these the same cars?
Yeah.
So the same color cars. What's the difference now? Or we'll play, I'll have them get me home from certain like places, like he's 5. So like, not, like doing a lot of good directions, but like once we get to probably like a mile from our house, he can get us home.
Awesome.
And, like turn left, turn right, turn left. And so if he doesn't do it, I'm just gonna keep driving because like just to like make them aware of their surroundings and
that's smart.
Like, life skills, right? I don't know. Again, he has fun with those games most of the time.
That is
and if
so
he's not
smart.
having fun, then we don't do it, right?
Yeah.
It's always kept light. It's always kept fun. It's always like, or it's never out of fear.
Sure.
It's just like light and easy. And if he's not in the mood, I'm like, okay, cool. We'll talk about this another time.
Yeah. Oh,
No
that's so smart. And I feel like a lot of that can just be worked into just normal dinner time. Like
It's just
it doesn't have to be a whole
conversation.
thing. Yeah. Oh, I love
So
it.
much of it happens when we're in the car.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so before we wrap up, what is maybe one or two tips that you swear by that it is always got to be this way, done deal, I've got it, always doing this? Like for me, my one tip is never let my gas tank go below a quarter tank. Like period.
Yeah, that's a big
Every
one
time
for
I
me, too.
pushed it, my kids are like, "Mom, you gonna take care of that?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, you're right."
That's a good one. Man, my number one tip, honestly, is nothing other than your eyes. To be like aware and alert and vigilant.
Yeah.
And like people joke like keep your head on a swivel, but it's true. That is like my number one. I'm never without my eyes up and like just paying attention to my surroundings.
Yeah.
Eye contact with people who make me feel uncomfortable, like just myself or all us. Like your own person is your best defense.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna be fully prepared for every single scenario, but being aware and alert and like just acknowledging your surroundings, I think is our most important asset.
Absolutely.
As moms, just like women, you know, or like men don't have to have the same.
They don't.
No, my husband's like, he doesn't understand sometimes when I get really passionate about it. And I'm like, you don't understand though. You have no idea what it's like to be a little girl in a big city or anywhere really with a little kid.
Yep. It's so different.
Your guard is different. And my guard is different when he's around versus when he's not around.
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
Maybe
Absolutely.
It shouldn't be, but it is, right?
Right.
Because I'm much more vulnerable by myself or with a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
So my number one is just like your own eyes, just being.
Yeah, I and you see people all the time just glued to their phones and not really, and I do it too, and I have to remind myself like, hey,
we all do like the things you're not supposed to.
Yes, and I remind myself like all of that is available when you're home and safe, and you can scroll in bed if you really want to. I know sleep people will tell you like, no, don't scroll in bed and stay up for 2 hours or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but I'd rather do it in bed than like at the park, and I don't know who's around us. I don't know what's going on. Yes.
Yep. You're so right. Being on our phones while we're like walking in and out of stores, it's easy to just like, I love just getting that quick little like dopamine hit.
Yes.
But at what cost?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm either looking down and not aware of anything, or I can like have my head up and be
present,
like a functioning member of society.
Yeah.
Just paying attention.
Yeah. And when I post this episode, I'm going to share your posts about being safe.
One of them is called The Unexpected and the Uninvited, a mom's guide to feeling empowered.
I love it.
The other one, I know that was such a good one. The other one is called Safety with Kids, a practical approach.
I remember reading those and being like, I need to get to know Becca more.
We do think very similarly about our outlook on life.
Yeah, it's
conversation fun, but I do think so many women don't think. So like, I need to be prepared. I need to be like,
Yep. And I don't know what bubble it is they're living in. Like, I don't understand it. I'm like, are you looking around? It's crazy out here.
I know. Anyway, that could be a conversation.
I want to kind of close on this. There are so many things I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. And that is really my approach to just like maneuvering in the world or at home. I'd rather just stock up on all the stuff and like, okay, well, I'm not going to need an EpiPen or whatever, but like I have it here just in case. You never know. You have a kid over for a play date or whatever.
Your neighbor might need an EpiPen.
Yes. Yeah.
Not everybody, but it's still true. I'd rather have more than less.
Yeah, absolutely. I was buying like plywood at Home Depot and my boyfriend was like, what is this for? And I'm like, just in case we ever needed to board up the windows. And he's
Does
like,
it matter what
it's
it's
a
for?
random Saturday and you're buying plywood and nothing has happened. I'm like, yeah, not yet. You don't know.
I'll never understand that thinking.
And he was just looking at me like, oh my gosh, who
I told my
are
husband
you?
we need a canoe. I was like, we need a canoe because it flooded. I wasn't even here for the flood. We did not even live in this state when it flooded for Harvey. And I was like, well, we could go save our friends.
Yep.
Because our
mean,
didn't flood. Right.
Yeah.
He's like, we don't need a boat. And I was like, but we could.
We might. You never know.
Yeah. So now he wants to get a motorcycle to like escape. I'm like, oh.
That's not the same.
No, and it's an expensive, like, anyway. Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. Men are so funny. They're like, oh, okay, you get a canoe. I'm going to get a motorcycle. Wait, what?
Right. A bike
Oh
would
my
get you out
gosh.
too. I don't know.
Oh my God. Right. A bike. That makes more sense. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much, Becca. I am so glad I got to chat with Becca about being prepared. Literally, like I said, since I learned more about her as a person and what she prioritizes, I was like, I really need to talk to her about this stuff. I think she has a whole lot of insight to share with us. And she did not disappoint. Love it. So if anything, I mean, again, please don't take this as like, do all the things to be prepared for all the things. Do little things, the little things you can handle to be a little bit more prepared so that you aren't completely caught off guard. Becca and I, we know that we're not ready for everything, but we know that the things that we can control, the things that come to mind, like, oh yes, we need to make sure to have A, B, and C in the car. Those are the things we're really adamant about. Everything else, it's just going to come at us as it comes at us, but the things that we can control, we're all over. So I hope this really encourages you to think about what is necessary for you to feel safe and secure, especially when it comes to you and your kids. For my Houston Moms House Blend this week, I love that this post exists. We are into Astros baseball season, hoping that it is a long, long season this year. Kim Reed wrote a post titled Houston Spring and Summer Fun, a guide to an Astros game. And she recently, I believe this post has been out for a little while, but she revamped it and brought it back to us. It's the perfect way to prepare for the Astros games, taking your kids, making sure you know what to expect, making sure you know what info you should have or where to go grab something, where to shop, all those things. She covers it and I'm so pumped. I'm really hoping to take my kids to an Astros game this year. We haven't been in a while and, you know, armed with Kim's post, I think I'm ready. All right, let's go ahead and wrap up with a see you later caffeinator. This is just some interesting information from FEMA. They ran an annual preparedness survey back in 2020, and it turns out 81% of Americans have gathered supplies for, you know, things like natural disasters, and then 65% have sought preparedness information, but only 48% have created emergency plans. That's really low to me. I felt like, at least I thought, everyone kind of had emergency plans. Everyone knew like everyone's thought out like this is where we go, this is how we'll handle this, this is, you know, we have all the supplies and all these things. It turns out not so much. And then of respondents, 77% reported having homeowners or renters insurance policies, which I also thought was pretty low. I thought pretty much everyone had renters or homeowners insurance, and then 22% have flood insurance. In Houston, I mean, it seems like pretty much everyone should have that. And, you know, I really hope we don't have to face this year, but a lot of the news stations are saying things like this year looks like it's going to be a very active year as far as hurricanes. So I think it's really important that we consider being as prepared as we can be. We certainly don't want to be caught off guard. We certainly don't want to be in a position where we don't have what we need to maintain our families. So I really encourage everybody to consider just being as prepared as possible, coming up with some plans, having things stocked up, you know, have it for when you might need it. So just a word of advice, but I hope these numbers to me are staggering. I expected so much higher. Thanks so much for joining another episode of the Cold Coffee Club. And shameless plug, please like and subscribe to the Cold Coffee Club wherever you listen to your podcast. We would love the support. It's free to do, but it means a whole lot to us. We love seeing those numbers grow. We love seeing how much our reach is expanding. I make this podcast because I'm passionate about it and I love it. And I love that I can provide some information that maybe you hadn't thought of, or maybe you needed a voice of support for whatever it is we're going through as moms, especially here in Houston. So give us some love if you have a chance. We really appreciate it. We'll see you next week.
You've been listening to the Cold Coffee Club, brought to you by Houston Moms. We wish you a fabulous week with your families and look forward to sharing many more cups of cold coffee with you.